Hey guys, it's the Loud Guys. Today we are going to watch What If US Launched a Nuclear Bomb. So this is something that is on the mind of everyone, that will ever US do it, because each and every country, each and every nuclear power country have some or the other day said that okay, they can use nuclear power. Pakistan says it, North Korea says it, India has sometimes said it, and even Russia has said that they can use nuclear bomb. But there has been only one country that has ever used nuclear bomb, and that is USA. So why not the second time? They can only be the one who can do it, because I think so that is the country that can suffer the consequence of it, because going into Pakistan and attacking Osama bin Laden and then coming out of Pakistan without much repercussions, that you can say only US could do it, because any other country would have done it, then they would have faced a lot of repercussions and also attack from Pakistan itself. But no, it did not happen because of the power of America. So I think so this is the same thing, that if there is one country that can launch a nuclear bomb, then that is USA. But we would never want that to happen, because if it is on Russia, then we know what Putin can do. He will also go hammer and tongs behind it, and he will also make sure that the nuclear attack is there. But we will see what happens.
In the past videos, we saw that about the Hiroshima attack, and we got to know that the whole place, basically the people got suffered so much. They suffered a lot, and most importantly, they didn't have any house or the facility to live. And definitely, if the America would if the America would launch the nuclear bomb, then definitely people has to suffer a lot. And I do believe that America is, as we all know, that America is developed country, and it doesn't suit that launching bombs and all, and doesn't suit the country like America. And as we all know that the heart of the America is so big, like we saw in the past video, that how they treat the prisoners. It's not like that they torture the prisoners at all. They just, the people of the America are so kind, and most importantly, the government is so mature. That's the reason America is so developed country. So I don't think that in future America will ever launch the nuclear bomb, because it knows the consequences of it. But if in the future it gonna launch the bomb, then what will going to be happen? These are my few questions, and I hope everything gonna be clear. My questions will be gonna clear after watching this video. So yeah, let's watch the video.
Yes, it will be very interesting to watch what will happen if US launch a nuclear bomb. So let's start the video.
These nukes will not target major cities or population areas, but they will cripple Russia's nuclear stores and military infrastructure. I've made my decision, the president says. Bring me the codes. 13 minutes before a U.S. nuclear launch.
30
Everyone
minutes.
turns to look at the man holding the black briefcase in the corner of the Situation Room. For a moment, he doesn't move. He knows the ramifications of delivering the briefcase to the president now that he's made up his mind. But it is his sworn duty. The man takes a step forward and carries the nuclear football to the table. He places it in front of the president of the United States and returns to his post. The president unlatches the clasps of the briefcase. They swing open with a satisfying click. The president then opens the case and pulls out the contents, laying them out on the table in front of him. First, the president opens the black book, which contains the retaliatory options available to him. There are all types of scenarios. The president runs his index finger over the table of contents until he lands on the one he's looking for. He flips through the pages and finds the correct one. The room is as quiet as a graveyard. It's as if the air has been sucked out of the chamber. No one moves. The president reads what's written on the page to himself and nods his head. He closes the black book and opens another booklet that contains a list of classified sites and their locations around the globe. It's here that he finds the targets that will be hit when he gives the final order to launch nukes at Russia. The president closes the book and opens a manila folder that contains several pages of authentication codes. He picks up the phone and calls the National Military Command Center at the Pentagon. They've been expecting his call. The voice on the other line speaks an authentication code into the receiver to verify that the person on the other line is in fact the President of the United States. The president pauses for a moment as he reads the words on the laminated card known as the biscuit. These words are known only to the president and confirm his identity. The member of the National Military Command Center listens to the response. It is correct. Next, the president relays the specific code that signifies which type of strike he wants. Now that the president has chosen to launch, there's nothing anyone can do to stop the process.
Oh my
the
God.
president of the United States is the only one who can authorize a nuclear launch, and is the only one who can cancel it once the process has begun. This makes many people in the Situation Room and around the country nervous, especially if they don't agree with his decision.
Oh, so normally what we have seen is like the Prime Minister or the President will tell the chief authority that is near to them, and then they will relay it, and then the attack happens. But that is not the case with nuclear attack. Okay, so this is like there is a briefcase of 2 books, and there is another thing on another folder also. So it is very, complicated. But the thing is, yes, it is very clear in itself that, okay, the president only has that book, and only he can read the book, and only he can read the commands. And if he gives the command, then there is no other command that is ensured. So it is very important to have a very nice president, because if he is not nice, he can do anything with those nuclear bombs, and he can attack any country with it. So this is very risky situation.
There's nothing anyone can do about it now. 5 minutes before a U.S. nuclear launch, the codes have been authenticated. The identity of the president has been confirmed. The encrypted instructions on what missiles should be prepared for launch and their targets are sent out to all parties involved. These sealed authentication system codes are received by military personnel around the world. When they come in, safes are opened at each site to retrieve the verification codes to ensure the SAS codes are real. Underground launch control centers that control the Minuteman missile silos in the heart of the country prepare for launch. Air Force generals order B-2 pilots to report to their planes. Deep under the waters of the Pacific Ocean, encrypted communications are sent to the Ohio-class submarines.
Nobody counter
to ready their
questions.
nuclear missiles for launch. In each instance, the NMCC orders are authenticated one more time by those who receive them to ensure that the most serious decision that's ever been made is real.
Yeah.
The NMCC sends out actual missile launch codes. There is one more failsafe to ensure that every possible opportunity to abort the firing sequence has been given. 1 minute before a U.S. nuclear launch, the crews at the underground missile silos open a box containing 2 keys. The commander of the facility holds onto one and gives the other to his second in command. Submarine captains hand off the key to their first mate, who walks over to one of the terminals aboard the submarine and prepares for what comes next. The captain pulls his own key out from the chain around his neck. The B-2s that are en route to their targets have been given the authorization to go weapons free. The 2 pilots in each cockpit are tasked with ensuring their payload hits the correct target. 10 seconds before a U.S. nuclear launch.
Within 13
There's collective
minutes.
anticipation across every branch of the military at this point. All high-ranking officers know what's about to happen. The U.S. is going to war, and it's launching nukes to kick off what will likely be a catastrophic series of events. There's still hope that by destroying most of Russia's nuclear capabilities, an all-out nuclear exchange can be avoided, but this can't be confirmed with 100% accuracy. The seconds tick down. 5 seconds before a U.S. nuclear launch. Each launch requires that both keys are turned within milliseconds of each other. This ensures that no single person is responsible for launching the nukes, and adds another layer of protection against unintentionally starting a nuclear war. 1 second before a U.S. nuclear launch.
And
the keys
done.
turn in their slots. The launch of the United States' nuclear arsenal is initiated. The nuclear triad is the backbone of America's national security. The triad consists of land, air, and sea nuclear launch capabilities, and the president's decision requires that all 3 branches fire their missiles at Russia 1 second after U.S. nuclear missiles are launched. The engines on 100 Minuteman III missiles roar to life in their underground silos. These ballistic missiles are located in Colorado, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, and Wyoming. The ground shakes as the silo doors open, and the Minuteman missiles roar into the sky. These ICBMs will fly over the Arctic to hit their targets on the other side of the world. The soldiers working in the underground launch control centers ask for forgiveness as they listen to the nukes take flight. The commanders at each facility are still on the phone with the President of the United States and the National Military Command Center. They update them on the progress as the missiles rise higher and higher into the atmosphere. Airborne missile combat crews monitor the ICBMs once they enter the upper atmosphere to ensure they're still on target. The Minuteman III rockets have a range of over 6,000 miles. They accelerate toward their top speed of 15,000 miles per hour, which is around Mach 23. Each missile weighs just under 80,000 pounds, which is a lot of weight to launch 700 miles above the Earth's surface. The rockets use 3 solid propellant motors to get the job done. 7 Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines rise close to the surface just off the Kamchatka Peninsula. This is only half of the Ohio-class subs that the U.S. has at its disposal, but for the current mission, it's all that's needed. The way the submarines were designed makes them almost impossible for the enemy to locate until they surface. and at that point it's too late. Each submarine can carry 20 ballistic missiles with independently targeted warheads. This means that each one of the warheads can be assigned a different target. This will make it incredibly hard for Russia to intercept them all, or launch effective countermeasures. It's almost inevitable that at least some of the missiles will hit their targets. The Trident II D5 missiles erupt out of their submarine silos and accelerate into the air. As soon as the missiles have been launched, the silo doors are closed.
This is very
and the submarine
scary.
descends back into the depths of the ocean, where it'll hide from any enemy ships trying to locate it. The submarines stealthily make their way back to their respective naval bases to be resupplied for their next mission. There's no rush at this point, as the Ohio-class subs typically spend 77 days at sea before returning for routine maintenance. However, if they needed to, the subs could stay underwater for much longer, as they're nuclear-powered and don't need to surface to replenish air. Instead, they use electrolysis to break apart H2O molecules and generate oxygen for the crew. The B-2 bombers are still traveling toward their objectives. Their timing has been precisely planned out, so they drop their bombs as soon as the first nuclear missiles hit their targets. The key to the president's plan is that the nukes strike Russia almost simultaneously. 5 minutes after U.S. nuclear missiles
are you trying
launched,
to destroy Russia?
NATO forces have launched a series of aerial and ground attacks into Russian territory. Their main objective is to serve as a decoy for what's to come. Bombers and fighter jets hit key Russian radar stations that survey the northern edges of Russian territory and the skies over the Arctic. This is done to prevent early detection of the incoming ballistic missiles arcing over the North Pole of the planet. Ground forces speed toward Moscow in an attempt to force Putin's attention on the invasion instead of the strategic nuclear strikes that the US just launched. It's a race against time for NATO forces. They need to cause as much damage and mayhem as possible to distract the mad dictator of Russia from launching his own nukes. Long-range missiles target key communication hubs between Moscow and the rest of the country. The more disruptive NATO forces can be, the better the chances the US nukes have at hitting their targets without being intercepted.
But they
15
will not
minutes after
sit
US
back.
nuclear
They will
missiles
also
are
attack
launched,
back.
The Trident II D5 missiles descend toward their targets. Simultaneously, the B-2s drop their nuclear bombs. These stealth aircraft are supplemented by a handful of B-21 Raiders, with upgraded tech and longer ranges. The Russians have no idea that these aircraft have entered their airspace. They claimed that their newest forms of radar could detect even stealth bombers, but this, like so much of Russia's military posturing, is just a fabrication. The pilots sight their targets using a combination of infrared sensors, satellite telemetry, and high-tech radar. They've already been given the all-clear to drop their nukes, since they must maintain radio silence while in Russian airspace to keep from being detected.
Yeah, that
Each
is also
B-2
the thing.
drops 16 2,400-pound
They will attack back.
nuclear bombs. They use sophisticated guidance systems to ensure that the nukes hit their targets. In an instant, dozens of nuclear missiles and bombs detonate above key Russian military installations. The distraction by NATO forces seems to have worked. The already weakened Russian military is so understaffed due to the war in Ukraine that they just didn't have the personnel to effectively monitor the NATO attacks and the incoming US nuclear warheads. However, it's now clear what the strategy is. Putin screams at his generals to launch any Russian nukes that remain.
Yeah.
At that very moment, a B-61 thermonuclear gravity bomb penetrates the ground near where Vladimir Putin is hunkered down in a bunker. The nuke detonates and instantly wipes out the Russian president and his closest generals. This will cause
But
a
is
breakdown
that
in the chain
possible?
of command and should deter Russia from launching its own nukes. Luckily, the classified information the President of the United States had included detailed instructions on where the first nuclear warheads needed to strike to deactivate the Russian dead hand contingency. The automated system is supposed to kick in if the Russian leadership is ever killed in a nuclear attack. Dead Hand uses information and sensors to determine if an all-out retaliatory strike should be launched if Russian leadership has been compromised. However, the system was from the Soviet era, and like many of the military systems that carried over from the time period, it was not properly maintained. A few well-placed nuclear strikes have completely disabled the Dead Hand system and have kept Russian protocols from instantly launching every remaining nuke they had at US and NATO targets. 30 minutes after US nuclear missiles are launched, the Minuteman III ICBMs are about to strike their targets. The warheads are
After
descending
30
toward the
minutes.
Earth at top speed. The remaining leaders of the Russian military use the A-135 system, which once consisted of 68 nuclear-armed interceptors and phased array radar stations, to track and destroy incoming missiles. But the first strike by the US has already decimated countless bases and assets, rendering their defensive network almost completely inoperable. The Russian Unified Air Defense System is still relaying information. The problem is, the military personnel required to effectively launch nuclear countermeasures have been decimated by the initial attack and by the war in Ukraine. However, 2 of the 6 Voronezh early warning radar installations still remain and are connected to the S-400 and S-500 anti-missile systems. The S-400 is designed to intercept aircraft and ballistic missiles with a range of up to 250 miles.
India is
The
also
upgraded
buying
version of these
S-400
missiles
from
has
Russia.
an active radar to help them track incoming targets. The Russian military launches several S-400 at the incoming Minuteman IIIs. Several hit their targets and detonate. Russia also has next-generation S-500s, but with a shortage of semiconductors and materials due to sanctions from the war in Ukraine, the upgrading of their missile defense systems has yet to be completed.
Oh,
The
I don't
Minuteman
think
III
so.
nukes hit their marks. Almost all of the major Russian targets that the President of the U.S. ordered to be destroyed are now either vaporized or consumed by fire. The Russian landscape is covered in radiation. Its military is decimated. Key Russian government and military leaders are no more. The mission was a success, but at what
Not
cost?
good.
A U.S. nuclear launch is something that the world hopes will never happen
Yeah.
again.
Seriously, this video was so terrifying, and the only question which which was arising in my mind was that what would happen that if the Russia will nuke again, a nuke back on America, then what would happen? So that's the serious question, and I hope such kinds of condition will never we have to never face such kinds of condition, because people of the both country has to suffer a lot. As we all know, as I told you earlier in the previous videos, we have seen a lot of videos of in the previous few times we have watched a lot of videos of wars and all, and we got to know that how people suffered and what they have to face, that there will be they have to face a lot of crises. They didn't have any homes, and most importantly the Russia will also has to face economically problems too. And to be honest, I don't like Russia, because most of the time we got to know from the past videos that most of the time it fights with the other countries. So that's the weird thing of the Russia, and that thing sucks. And I don't know why Russia is such kind of country. Earlier India used to support Russia, but right now there is a good relationship between the America and India, but still I do think that such kinds of condition will never, we have to never face such kinds of condition, because it's not like that it gonna suffer, the people of the Russia has to suffer. It's like the whole world has to suffer from this war. So yeah, on the other side I am also feeling very tense and scary, that why such kinds of conditions always arise between the countries, like why Ukraine has to, I mean Russia has to fight with the different countries. So that's the thing which I really don't like about the Russia.
And the thing is, like previously we have seen that one nuclear attack that has happened in this world was against Japan, and that Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So those were just 2 bombs, and that 2 bombs are still remembered, like how bad it was and how worse it was. But now we are talking about missiles from land, air, and water. Like for all the 3 types of attack. I thought like this video's whole idea was to how to end Russia. This should be the title of the video, because like the amount of missiles that were being thrown at it, and that to nuclear attacks, like how do you expect not to hurt the civilians? Because like even if you attack the military bases here and there, because I know there might be many military bases that might be near to the civilian areas, so you attack them and you might like decimate all these civilians out there. Like everywhere we have heard about like nuclear things, or like even the Chernobyl thing. So it just shows like how bad it goes every time, and how can you even think about this. So this is something that literally should never ever happen. And okay, one bomb was just like 2 bombs thrown on Japan is such a very messy history for the world, but now throwing these many bombs would be just devastating for the world. So what do you guys think about it? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share, and bye.